Hi, everyone. We wanted to give everyone a few minutes to log in and get on screen. And thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us for this webinar about the Department of Education's 21st Century Community Learning Centers grant. I'm Shannon Rotenberg, and I'm the Executive Director of Camilla and Matthew McConaughey's Just Keep Living Foundation. They are very passionate about helping find school districts find this money for these grants that are so needed. So today we're excited to go through the 21st Century Community Learning Center grants and grants that are available on state-by-state basis through the Department of Education. This grant is actually extra special to us because what their foundation actually does on a regular basis is we set up after-school fitness wellness program. So this supports the creation of community learning centers that provide academic enrichment and opportunity during non-school hours for the children, particularly students who are high poverty and low performing schools. This aligns well with what we do, our Just Keep Living programs that I just mentioned to you as we work with schools across the country to develop after-school programs. Camilla and Matthew are very excited you're joining, and our Just Keep Living Foundation staff and team. And thank you for caring. Thank you for wanting to help ensure America's students are safe, secure, and healthy. We all have a role to play. Thank you for taking your valuable time. I'm excited to turn it over to Julie, the expert here, to start talking to you guys about it. So thank you. Please let us know at the end if you have any questions. And thank you, Julie. I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks so much, Shannon. As she said, my name is Julie Asel, and I'm the President and CEO of Asel Grant Services. It is my pleasure to lead today's webinar on the 21st Century Community Learning Centers Grant Program, as well as its intersection with the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. I'm based in the Lee Summit, Missouri area, and I specialize in grant writing, and I've had the privilege of serving as a grant writer since 2003. Now, throughout my career, I've had the opportunity to work with a variety of organizations, including school districts of all sizes, universities, and nonprofits. I actually started my career as a grant professional with the Kansas City, Missouri School District, and I've been a reviewer of grants in the state of Missouri and have personally secured over $145 million in grant funding, with my team at large securing over $400 million to date. So thank you for joining me today. I'm excited to share our insights and help you navigate the opportunities that the 21st Century Grant Program offers. Now, the goal of this webinar is to provide you with information about the 21st Century Community Learning Centers Grant Program, which you'll hear me a lot of times just call the 21st Century Grant, 21st Century Learning Center Grant. It's a mouthful. This will include information on the background and kind of the legislation of the 21st Century Funds, the federal requirements, and then, of course, the best practices to really develop a high-quality program, and, of course, highly competitive proposals. Additionally, we'll have some time at the end of the presentation to address any questions you may have about this grant opportunity. We always get asked. This presentation is being recorded and will be available on the Greenlight Grants Initiative website under Resources. And then you will see that this will probably be available in the next 24 hours or so. So in this presentation, you're going to encounter a wide variety of acronyms, right? These acronyms are going to be in the field of education and grant legislation, and obviously they're going to particularly be focused on the relevance of the 21st Century Program and the legislation of the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. So I just kind of wanted to make sure you had a little bit of a cheat sheet about the most common ones used in this presentation. These have also been provided for you in a handout for your ease of reference throughout the presentation. So let's start with some background information and really some just kind of basics to make sure everybody's on the same page with the 21st Century Program. This program was initially created in 1994, back when they reauthorized the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, ESEA, by the Improving America's School Act. It was then expanded in 2001 through the No Child Left Behind Act, and it was initially administered at the federal level until 2001, when that responsibility was then turned over to the state education agencies in each state. The program has then been reauthorized in 2015 under Title IV, Part B of ESEA with the Every Student Succeeds Act. Ultimately, the 21st Century program provides academic enrichment, including tutorial services to help students meet academic standards, and then a broad range of additional services, programs, and activities, all focused on non-school hours or periods when school is not in session. This might be before or after school, weekends, school breaks, summers, etc. So again, the purpose of this is to provide opportunities for communities to establish or maybe even expand activities through these community learning centers that provide academic enrichment. For most organizations, this really focuses on tutorial services to help students, particularly students who attend schools in need of this additional support, with the goal of meeting their academic standards. But they also offer students a broad array of services, programs, and activities. This can include youth development activities, service learning, nutrition and health education, drug and violence prevention programs, counseling programs, arts, music, physical fitness and wellness programs, technology education programs, financial literacy programs, environmental literacy programs, math, science, career and technical programs, internship and apprenticeship programs, and other partnerships with in-demand industry sector or occupations for high school students. All of this designed to reinforce and complement the regular academic program of participating students. And then the funding also offers families of students served by the community learning centers opportunities for really active and meaningful engagement in their child's education, including opportunities for literacy and related educational development. Now, while this is a federal program that is in essence administered by the individual states, there are basic elements that are in all 21st century applications, regardless of what state you're applying under. In designing its application, an eligible organization should keep in mind the whole child, including mental, physical, social, and emotional well-being of all the children served. So each local applicant must provide a comprehensive program design. Within that design should be a comprehensive description of all of the activities to be funded. There are things like assurances that the program will operate in a safe and easily accessible facility conducive to those proposed activities, but it should also outline programs for or plans for safe transportation of the students, maybe if it's to or from the center, if it's not on school district property. The organization must also detail how it's going to disseminate understandable and accessible information about the community learning centers to the community. And this might include accommodations for those who have maybe impairments or disabilities. The application also must include how those activities are expected to improve student academic achievement and overall student success. Now, how do they define that? It really encompasses a demonstration of how they're able to make all of these different programs, federal, state, local, all work together and have effective use of public resources to overall help children. Now, all of these applications have to assure the state that they're applying to that this program was developed and carried out in collaboration with educational institutions while still ensuring things like privacy and confidentiality. And of course, it must align with whatever those states' academic standards are, as well as the local academic standards. It is essential that 21st century funds are designed to supplement other funds for school programs, not replace them. So any partnership between an LEA, a community-based organization, and maybe other public or private entities really have to be described in detail. The application will evaluate community needs and available resources, which we're going to talk about later in the presentation, and that has to include those of working families, and then of course, how the proposed program will address them. Best practices, including research or evidence-based practices, which again, we'll talk about more in detail, will then be utilized to provide that education or related activities to enhance student academic performance, achievement, and positive youth development. So you want to not only provide information about the program design, but also, and this trips up a lot of people, kind of a preliminary plan for how they're going to continue this community learning center after 21st century funding ends. So that organization has to provide assurance that they're going to tell their community about their application and what kind of waivers will be available, how you're going to use, again, maybe volunteers to help make your program cost effective, and that those volunteers are encouraged and appropriately qualified to be serving in those roles. Okay. And as I mentioned earlier, for some states, it is also a pretty big deal to make sure that this program is accessible for students with disabilities. So we're going to talk about some of these federal requirements in a little bit more detail before we talk about that intersection with the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. Now, ESEA does not require specific hours of operations, but programming must offer during non-school hours or periods when schools are not in session. And I've seen a lot of applicants get really creative with this, right? So programs which offer services maybe before school or after school, school breaks, summer, they then must meet kind of these operational requirements of a minimum number of hours per grant year, and these typically go from July 1 to June 30th. Elementary programs, for example, we see things like a minimum of 300 hours in a grant year and saying, well, you must meet at least 1.5 hours per day, or middle and high school programs operating at least 250 hours per grant year. Then these program design must be really centered around the needs of children, youth, but also the wider community. And in order to do this, it involves implementing of various components to ensure this comprehensive support and engagement. And you can see a wide variety of those things listed on our slide here. For the first one, it's really crucial to offer a diverse range of academic and enrichment activities, basically to meet the varied interests and talents of all the different participants. These activities should not only support academic learning, but also provide opportunities for personal growth and skill development. The active involvement of families in the program is essential for creating a supportive and inclusive learning environment. These strategies should be developed to encourage consistent communication, developing input from the families, and offering a flexible engagement option to accommodate different schedules and preferences. And then, while not obligatory, many programs consider the educational needs of the adults within their community who are parents to contribute to that overall family well-being and increasing their community development. Forming an advisory group comprising stakeholders from various backgrounds helps to ensure that the program benefits from diverse perspectives and inputs. This group can offer valuable insights, guidance, and support, even for things like program operations. Another area that can be tricky for some is this idea of collaboration with private schools, because collaboration with private schools has to occur during the program design phase to ensure inclusivity and alignment with the needs of all potential participants, as well as on the back end. So consulting with private schools really helps to address specific consideration or requirements that might be unique to their student population. Implementing a structured plan for staff training and development is essential for maintaining program quality and effectiveness. Continuous learning opportunities enable staff to stay informed about best practices and to adapt to evolving needs. Many programs then offer nutritious snacks during program sessions to promote overall well-being and reinforce healthy lifestyle habits among its participants. And last but not least, accessibility is key to ensuring participation, particularly for those facing transportation barriers. So providing transportation to and from program sessions and family engagement activities can really help ensure equitable access for all participants. So who is this really aimed at, right? The 21st century programs must target students who either A, attend a Title I school with 40% or more poverty, B, a Title I school that receives a waiver from an SEA to operate a school-wide program, or C, a non-Title I public school that still has 40% or more poverty. The 21st century statute doesn't define what it means to target students attending schools eligible to operate a school-wide program. So really that gives discretion to SEAs to determine how an applicant might meet that requirement. For example, an LEA can serve students at a specific school eligible to operate a school-wide program. They could serve a community-based organization which is partnering with schools eligible to operate school-wide programs to exclusively serve the students attending those schools, or an applicant can propose serving students from across the community attending different schools, with most of the participating schools eligible to operate school-wide programs. Now, when you apply for a 21st century grant, applicants really need to propose programs or activities that are designed to help students meet those state and local academic standards. If it makes sense for the program, these proposals should be rooted in what's called evidence-based research. This means that the program or activity should have some kind of proven track record for improving student outcomes or other important results. Now, the term evidence-based has a specific definition. It refers to activities, strategies, or interventions that have been shown to make a statistically significant difference in improving outcomes. And this can be shown in a few different ways. Strong evidence comes from at least one well-conducted experimental study, right? These studies are very controlled and aim to provide a program and say directly causes an improvement. Moderate evidence is based on at least one well-conducted quasi-experimental study. These are similar to an experimental study, but it doesn't use random assignment to place participants into groups. And then there's promising evidence. This is one well-conducted correlational study. It includes measures to account for the differences between groups, like statistical controls for selection bias. But this type of study observes the relationship between variables, but it doesn't necessarily prove cause and effect. And frankly, a lot of 21st century programs find themselves in this promising evidence category, or they may alternatively call themselves evidence-based if it's likely to improve outcomes based on strong research findings or positive evaluations, and is accompanied by ongoing efforts to test its effectiveness and understand its impact on student outcomes or other relevant results. This approach ensures that programs and activities funded by 21st Century not only have solid foundation in research, but are also continuously evaluated for their effectiveness in real-world settings. Now, SEAs are required to prioritize certain applications. So applications that are proposing to target services to students who primarily attend schools that are implementing comprehensive support and improvement activities, or targeted support and improvement activities, or maybe other schools determined by an SEA to be in need of intervention and support to improve the student's academic achievement and other outcomes. These schools enroll students who may be at risk for academic failure or dropping out of school. They may be involved in criminal or delinquent activities, or they simply may lack strong positive role models. Additionally, priority is given to applications targeting the families of such students. Now, applications submitted jointly by eligible entities consisting of at least one LEA receiving funds and another eligible entity are also given priority. Priority is also given to applications demonstrating that the proposed activities are, at least as of the date of the submission of the application, not accessible to students who would be served, or maybe would expand accessibility to high quality services available in the community. Now, an SEA may not give priority or preference to applicants who propose to simply extend the regular school day through what's called an expanded learning program. And we get a lot of people who are seeking to do that, and this is not appropriate funding for that. So let's talk next about who can really apply for these programs. An eligible entity really encompasses a variety of organizations, right? LEAs, community-based organizations, Indian tribes or tribal organizations, other public or private entities, or a consortium of two or more of these agencies, organizations, or entities. In addition, educational service agencies, which are regional public multi-service agencies authorized by state law to develop, manage, and provide services or programs to LEAs, they are also eligible. Charter schools are also eligible to apply. Regarding private entities eligible for these funds, private, as applied to an agency, organization, institution, really just means that it's not under federal or public supervision or control. So accordingly, any organization not under those is considered a private entity for 21st century eligibility. This might include faith-based or for-profit private entities, provided that they can perform the functions of the community learning center. Now, BIE-funded schools may also apply for a 21st century subgrant at both underneath both the state in which the school is located and to the BIE. However, a school may not receive two subgrants for basically the same activities. The SEA and the BIE must ensure that the applicant does not receive a subgrant from both of them for the same thing. Now, non-LEAs applying must collaborate with schools that students will be served by the 21st century attend, right? The non-LEA must ensure that the program was developed and carried out in collaboration with the schools, ensuring alignment between school day curriculum and activities, and have a signed memorandum of understanding. And these are things that if people don't plan for ahead of time, really can trip you up when you're looking at them after the application is out. Okay, so let's talk about these very specific application components that you're going to see no matter what state you're in, right? Starting out with a needs assessment. A thorough needs assessment is really imperative for informed program design. This entails meticulous data analysis, examining things like demographic trends among target populations, as well as academic performance indicators. Concurrently, an evaluation of available resources, including existing programs and community partnerships, is indispensable. Moreover, stakeholder engagement plays a pivotal role, necessitating comprehensive surveys for parents, teachers, and students, alongside really the cultivation of strategic alliances with pertinent agencies and organizations. So during that initial phase of your needs assessment, your comprehensive data analysis is key. This involves analyzing local and school data to identify those trends and patterns, engaging with students, families, educators, school leaders, LEA staff, and community members to gather qualitative insights. Can also work with you to collaborate, understanding those systemic issues. By integrating diverse perspectives and data sources, you really are able to develop a nuanced understanding of the challenges and tailor program interventions accordingly, ensuring alignment with community needs. Now to optimize your 21st century program's efficacy and sustainability, you really want to evaluate the available resources thoroughly. You want to assess existing supports and activities within the community and school to ensure alignment and to prevent duplication. Because you have to adhere to this principle of supplement, provide extra, versus supplant or replace. Additionally, propose coordination efforts with your local organizations and agencies, frankly, to streamline efforts effectively. You want to identify strategic partnerships with stakeholders to really leverage their expertise and resources and foster collaboration and enhance your program's impact. Now, effective stakeholder engagement is integral to the success and sustainability of your 21st century program. Funders recognize the importance of actively involving parents, teachers, students, and community members in the planning and implementation process. Through targeted outreach efforts, including surveys, focus groups, and collaborative meetings, you can solicit input, feedback, and perspectives from diverse stakeholders. This inclusive approach ensures that programs reflect the needs and preferences of the communities it serves. Additionally, ensure compliance with the requirement for LEAs to annually contact officials of private schools within their attendance or service area to offer equitable services under the covered ESEA program. Now, applicant organizations must tailor their interventions to these specific student and community needs and leverage their existing strengths. So the program's design should be informed by comprehensive understanding of the community's strengths and challenges. Stakeholders' involvement in the development process is documented in the narrative, describing how their contributions inform the analysis and planning. As we mentioned, the program must offer services during non-school hours, right? This might be before school, after school, weekends, school breaks. It could include teacher planning days, fall, winter, spring, and summer breaks, and even parent-teacher conferences days. Describe how the operating schedule was designed to meet the needs of those targeted students, and of course, any adult family members you're looking to serve as well. The program design also has to provide a clear picture of what happens every day, including sufficient detail to ensure that the plan is realistic and achievable. It provides an overall vision, including the who and how many students will be served and how they're going to be recruited. Additionally, it will describe how they're going to disseminate information about the Learning Center in, again, an understandable and accessible manner, with detailing how and when those private schools were consulted during the development process. As we mentioned, applicant organizations have to cite scientifically based research to justify that the program or activity helps students meet state and local academic achievement standards. Now, the typical weekly schedule should be provided, right? So it might include times and defined periods for academic, enrichment, and kind of miscellaneous activities for the program day. Moreover, that staff and student ratio and transportation plan should also be addressed here. Non-LEA applicants provide evidence of collaboration with the school district where the program takes place, ensuring appropriate access to the required reporting data. The program design section describes how the proposed program addresses or remedies those risk factors of the target population. The services should be closely tied to the needs identified in your needs section. It's vital for the organization to explain how the program has tailored its activities to address those specific needs of participants in order to achieve desired outcomes. Furthermore, applicant organizations must describe how the proposed program supports the students in achieving 21st century performance goals and indicators. Programs and activities are based on these established set of performance measures, and they should have then a direct correlation between the program and state content standards and student academic achievement standards. Now, applicant organizations should systemically embed family engagement throughout the program, right? Family engagement is collaborative, interactive, specifically linked to learning. And establishing partnerships with other appropriate agencies and organizations providing services to the target population is also essential for the program's success. Let's move on to the management plan next. So the plan for effectively staffing and managing a proposed program is again crucial. It should outline who's going to create this academic and enrichment program to ensure that the standards are met, who are going to manage the program, who's going to teach it, and then maybe even who will serve as the fiscal agent. The adequacy of the management plan to achieve the objectives of the proposed program on time and within budget should be described. This includes clearly defining responsibilities, timelines, and milestones for accomplishing program tasks. An organizational chart is almost always included. The roles to be played by each partner should be delineated, saying who will do what, when, where, to what ends, and with what anticipated results. Additionally, it should clarify which applicant will be the fiscal agent and describe the applicant and fiscal agent's experience in managing grant funds, diverse staff, and frankly, substantial budgets. A communication plan should also be developed to ensure regular and transparent communication. This section should explain how the applicant will ensure that the staff working with the students are qualified to do so through proper certification, licensure, experience, or maybe endorsements for subjects or ages taught. Job descriptions for key staff are typically included in the section, not in an appendix. And if the applicant plans to use, let's say, qualified seniors or youth as volunteers, you really have to provide specific details. And the program leaders should also have sufficient time to accomplish the tasks, including that sustainability plan. The program's approach to addressing staff needs and providing ongoing staff development specific to the 21st century program should also be explained. Now, it is essential that the applicant ensure a diversity of perspectives in the operation of the proposed program, not just in the planning side, right? So you really want to think about the parents, the teachers, the business community, a variety of disciplines and professional fields, recipients or beneficiaries of services, or others as appropriate. Again, an advisory group really needs to be in place or established to oversee the activities of the proposed program. And then that role and capacity of the advisory group will then also be described. Includes things like the frequency of grant meetings. Most people will tell you it's a minimum of 3 meetings a year. It's also recommended that these committee members represent the community, partners, school administrators, parents, students, and others. Now, state education agencies must evaluate 21st century programs comprehensively, right? And they use about 5% of their funds to do that. The SEAs may assign evaluators, or they may let applicants select one of their own. Evaluation plans, though, must include performance indicators aligned with student academic needs and success, such as state assessment results and improved attendance and grades. High school indicators may include things like career competencies and work-based learning. SEAs can use the Department of Education's measures, and they can add more. And those evaluations must be publicly disseminated. SEAs must make their evaluation plans available to applicants and subgrantees to align their programs, and then they must conduct periodic evaluations using grant funds to then improve program quality. They're going to be collecting data on student success and contributing it to their evaluation, and again, making their evaluation publicly available as well. These are all things that you can use as you're developing your program and application to take a look and say, well, what did the state say? Okay. Evaluation mechanisms, they have to be robust. They have to be multifaceted. They have to ensure really a comprehensive assessment of the program's efficacy. This includes establishing quantifiable performance measures, both quantitative and qualitative. And the data collection strategies have to be outlined meticulously with focus on integrity as well as confidentiality. Those continuous monitoring and quality improvement processes are vital for a sustained program enhancement. Performance measures, well, let's talk about those, right? Clear and comprehensive performance measures are crucial for assessing program effectiveness. They have to align with program objectives, including indicators such as the state assessment results, grades, and attendance. High school programs, as we mentioned, can factor in things like career skills, work-based learning. But establishing those benchmarks really enables informed decision-making as well as ensuring accountability. On the data collection side, you really want to specify who's going to collect the data, when is it going to be collected, what's the process you're going to use for that. Diverse sources include things like surveys and assessments to ensure comprehensive understanding of impact. But also, systematic data collection really facilitates tracking progress over time and making informed adjustments. Keep in mind that a lot of these grants are multi-year grants, okay? So things like data collection being systematic will really help you over time keep your head above water with all the data collection required in these grants. But it also feeds continuous monitoring and quality improvement. So that monitoring and reporting is essential for accountability, and your states are absolutely going to be demanding that of you. So you want to clarify the responsibilities for monitoring those as implementation activities, as well as your budget expenditures. You want to define the process for making changes then based on data analysis and stakeholder feedback that then drives that continuous improvement. All of this is really wrapped up in ongoing engagement, right? So you're sharing data with stakeholders to foster transparency and accountability, but then you're also defining strategies for actively engaging your stakeholders in project implementation and decision making, cultivating that culture of collaboration. By soliciting feedback and involving stakeholders, you really maximize your program impact and sustainability. Now, for your budget, a 4-year budget plan will really be necessary, and most of them will then ask you for a detailed breakdown for year 1. It's essential to ensure compliance with any state reduced funding requirements, right? So over time, they may say, well, if your program cost is this much, we're going to only fund 80% in year 4 or 70% in year 5. So something to keep in mind. The SEA may also impose thresholds on certain line items. Common ones include things like evaluation costs. A lot of times that's set about 5% of the total grant costs. And there are also maybe limits on indirect costs, which are often capped at a maximum of 8%. Professional development expenses are another area, though, where thresholds may be applied. Some states actually require a minimum allocation for travel expenses to national and state conferences. Now, as we think about budget, we also have to think about sustainability and overall adequacy of resources. So you have to have a plan that outlines the action steps to ensure sustainability after the grant funds end. This includes engaging your advisory group on sustainability efforts and describing partner roles or contributions post-award. It should also specify the expected operating funds needed for sustainability. Now, applicants must explain how the available resources from all sources are adequate to accomplish the program as proposed in these previous sections we've talked about, right? This involves detailing available resources, such as classrooms and labs, to carry out program activities. Additionally, applicants should describe their experience in successfully operating educational and related programs or activities. Furthermore, the plan should outline the resources partners plan to contribute to support sustainability efforts. Now, appendices really vary from state to state, right? They serve as this critical supporting documents. They provide additional context, evidence, and logistical details to bolster the main proposal's credibility and viability. Each component of the appendices is kind of strategically curated to provide essential information that supplements the core narrative of the grant application. Through these appendices, the grant application is fortified with robust supporting documentation, showcasing the applicant's readiness and capacity to execute the proposed program with diligence and efficacy. So you want to ensure that all your appendices provide comprehensive support for the proposed program. They should demonstrate alignment with the grant requirements and priorities. Don't let these be last minute, and don't let them be like, oh yeah, I just have to attach this thing. They should all be well thought out, okay? Now, SEAs have the option to add extra priorities in their local competitions for these subgrants. One such priority is an emphasis on creating a welcome, safe, and inclusive environment, right? This ensures that all students, regardless of their background or circumstances, feel valued and supported in the program, fostering a sense of belonging and community. Another area, though, is the incorporation of STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics programming. By integrating STEM activities, the programs aim to spark an interest in those fields among students, potentially paving the way for future educational and career paths in these disciplines. Geographic diversity can also be a significant consideration. SEAs may prioritize new applicants, particularly those from communities who have not historically received a grant, as well as applicants from areas identified as underserved by the state. This approach aims to expand the reach of 21st century programs to maybe new or neglected areas ensuring a broader impact across the state. The implementation of trauma-informed practices is another priority that some SEAs may emphasize. Recognizing the profound impact that traumatic experiences can have on students, these practices are designed to provide a supportive and understanding environment that helps students heal and thrive. We've also seen a career education component for middle school students being identified as a priority for some SEAs. This initiative helps young students begin to explore their interests and potential career paths early, providing guidance and resources to assist them to make informed decisions about their future. Lastly, we have seen some SEAs require that the programs operate for a minimum of 15 hours per week. This ensures that the students have what's considered sufficient time to engage deeply with the program's activities, maximizing their learning and development opportunities. And it's also important to note that attending applicant workshops highly encouraged and in some cases required in some of these states, right? So these workshops are going to offer you crucial information and support in helping you prepare your successful application, highlighting the importance of understanding these specific requirements and priorities of their state's 21st century program. Now, even though the request for proposal might not have been released for your state yet, laying the groundwork for your program is key. So today we're going to talk about some foundational steps that are going to ensure really a smooth transition once that RFP becomes available. So first and foremost, you want to prioritize your needs assessment and data collection. You want to best understand the unique needs of your community so that you can align your program's goals effectively and tailor your services to meet those needs. Too often I see organizations come in and they want to do something without actually understanding what's really needed. And then they're like, well, I didn't understand why no one came or no one participated or they were unhappy. Okay. Second, building partnerships with community agencies. It's essential. Even without the RFP, you can start establishing communication channels, gathering signed MOUs to demonstrate your commitment to collaboration and access to support services. That clear communication and collaboration will be key to the success of your program. So by fostering strong partnerships and coordination with community agencies, you can maximize the impact of your program and better serve your target population. Lastly, we don't want you to forget about gathering those assurances, certifications, and signatures from key stakeholders. This ensures compliance with regulatory requirements and demonstrates your dedication to the success of your program. So by focusing on these essential tasks, even before your RFP is available, you'll be well prepared to hit the ground running once it's released. So let's talk about a little bit about the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, because we need to understand kind of what's going on and kind of the intersection here. So on June 25th of 2022, President Biden signed into law the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, or BSCA. This legislation expanded vital mental health services and provided additional support for states and districts to design and enhance initiatives that promoted safer, more inclusive and positive school environments for all students, educators, and staff. And some of those words you've already heard me use. But the BSCA also included an appropriation of $50 million for the 21st century program. This extra money from BSCA is being given to states as an addition to what they were already getting for their 21st century program. So states have been tasked with allocating the remaining BSCA 21st century funds to eligible entities. The supplemental award is specifically designed to support these evidence-based practices that aim to increase attendance and engagement among middle school and high school students. This focus is really driven by data that show that 45% of all public schools are reporting a significant increase in student chronic absenteeism since the pandemic began. And 67% report that absenteeism is remaining the same or increasing versus their last school year. So in light of these findings, the department is strongly advising states to prioritize evidence-based practices that improve student attendance and engagement, reduce chronic absenteeism, and really strengthen those connections between students in the middle grades and high schools with their schools and families and program partners in their next 21st century competition. Alternatively, states have an option to offer simply additional support to their existing subgrantees to enhance or extend the services to students in these key stages of education. Okay, so let's talk about how these two are really integrated to give you competitive advantage, right? So the connection between these, it should be significant for organizations seeking funding. By understanding how a strong 21st century proposal can enhance the likelihood of receiving funding through the BSCA, organizations can really strategically craft their proposal to align with the goals of both programs. So again, they're emphasizing evidence-based practices aimed at increasing student attendance and engagement at the middle schools and high schools, okay? Now, the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act has outlined these 6 key activities that states and their 21st century subgrantees can engage in to boost student attendance and participation. So by integrating these activities into your 21st century proposal, you can create a program that not only enhances academic achievement, but also promotes overall well-being and engagement among students. So let's take a closer look at these activities and we'll explore how they can be incorporated into your 21st century proposal. So organizations can leverage this information by crafting their proposals in alignment with these priorities. So highlighting the potential impact of these proposed initiatives about, again, creating safer and more inclusive school environments can further enhance your competitiveness of grant applications. Okay. First, creating a welcome, safe, and inclusive environment is, of course, essential. It means adopting safety strategies that value the unique qualities and strengths of different communities. For instance, programs that encourage active collaboration and local organizations that with and mental health providers, they can make a big difference. Such initiatives aim to empower young people and ensure that their voices are heard. Next, engaging families and in providing them with support plays a critical role. Making a genuine effort to connect with families lays the groundwork for successful partnerships. Effective communication, listening to and acting on family feedback, offering flexible meeting times, providing resources, and sharing strategies for home support are all ways to foster this collaboration. Encouraging cooperation in finding ways to support students is also vital. Now, ensuring that there's a strong link between schools and 21st century programs is important for providing consistent support, right? So incorporating engagement strategies directly into the existing structures, like adapting a school's multi-tier support system for use in a 21st century program, can really help integrate that academic, mental health, and behavioral support. And as we've mentioned, adopting trauma-informed practices. So crucial, right? This approach is all about understanding the widespread impact of trauma, recognizing its signs, responding appropriately, and striving to avoid causing further trauma to your students. And then setting up mentoring programs can have significant impact. These programs are based on fostering strong connections between students, mentors, schools, families, which can help students build resilience and progress in their mental health and academic pursuits. And finally, providing meaningful and, of course, engaging learning experiences is key. Opportunities like student apprenticeships, project-based learning, community field trips, service learning, tutoring, they should all focus on acceleration and using high-quality instructional materials that respect grade level content and build on what students already know. Now, to create that welcome, safe, and inclusive environment within the school setting, it's crucial to gather data on student demographics, school climate, safety measures. Student demographic data provides insights into the diversity of the student body, allowing again for those tailored programs to meet the unique needs of different groups. Additionally, collecting data on school climate through surveys and assessments can really help gauge students' perception of safety, inclusivity, and belonging within the school environment. Tracking disciplinary incidents and attendance rates can also provide indicators of school safety and student engagement. Now, engaging families and providing them with support requires a comprehensive understanding of the community's demographics, socioeconomic status, and cultural diversity. Demographic data can shed light on family composition, income levels, language preferences, which then inform outreach efforts and program design. Surveys and interviews with community members can provide insights into the perceptions of family engagement and the types of support they may need. Additionally, tracking participation rates in family events and programs can help assess the effectiveness of outreach efforts and really identify areas for improvement. And establishing mentoring programs within the community requires data on student demographics, academic performance, social emotional well-being. Demographic data can help identify students who may benefit from mentoring support, such as those maybe from low-income families or underrepresented groups. Surveys and interviews with students can provide insights into their social emotional needs and preferences for mentorship. Additionally, tracking student outcomes like student achievement and attendance can help assess the impact of mentoring programs on student success. And designing relevant and engaging learning experiences within the community requires data on students' interests, their learning styles, as well as their academic needs. Surveys and focus groups with students can provide insights into those interests, preferences, as well as their challenges in the learning environment. Academic data, such as their, of course, assessment scores and progress reports, can help identify areas where students may need additional support or enrichment. Additionally, tracking again participation rates and feedback from students in program activities can help assess the effectiveness of the learning experiences and inform future program planning. Now, by aligning each of these activities with relevant data insights, anyone can develop a comprehensive and evidence-based approach to addressing the needs of students, families, and the school community within the 21st century program. To begin, again, start by analyzing the data collected during your needs assessment, look for those patterns and trends, identify areas of need and opportunity where your program can make meaningful impact. And then once you have that clear understanding, brainstorm a diverse range of activities that address the identified needs and interests of your students, considering incorporating those academic enrichment activities, tutoring sessions, STEM activities, literacy workshops to support student learning and achievement. And then think about those supplemental services that promote holistic student development. This could include activities focused on social emotional learning, character development, career exploration. Engage with students, families, and community members to gather input and feedback on potential activities, ensuring they resonate with your target audience. And then when designing your activities, you of course want to align them with the goals and objectives of the 21st century and the BSCA programs. You want to highlight specifically how does each activity support the program's mission to provide academic enrichment opportunities during non-school hours, particularly for students from high poverty and low performing schools. And then, of course, you want to consider those diverse needs and preferences of your students when you plan your activities, right? A variety of options accommodate different learning styles, interests, and abilities, incorporating hands-on experiential learning experiences, engage students, and frankly, make learning fun and meaningful for them all. And then as you outline your activities, provide detailed descriptions of each activity, including its intended learning outcomes, target audience, and materials resources needed. You want to explain how each activity will be implemented and evaluated to ensure its effectiveness in meeting the needs of your students. I really actually always say it's like I'm looking inside the window on the program. That's how detailed you really should be going. So by leveraging the data to inform the design of your program activities, you can create this comprehensive and evidence-based proposal that demonstrates your organization's commitment to meeting the needs of your target population. Now, of course, it's imperative to leverage evidence-based approach to design activities that effectively address and identify these needs. Incorporating evidence-based strategies, again, ensures the efficacy and impact of your program. So you want to begin by conducting a thorough review of the existing research, literature, and best practices related to the needs identified in your assessment. You want to look for evidence-based interventions and strategies that have been proven to be effective in similar contexts. You want to align each proposed activity with the relevant research and evidence base. You want to clearly articulate how the chosen activities are grounded in established theory or empirical evidence, which demonstrates their potential to actually address the identified needs. And then while drawing on this existing evidence, you want to be prepared to adapt and customize activities to then suit the unique context and needs of your target population. You want to consider factors like cultural relevance, community preferences, and available resources when designing and implementing those activities. And of course, prior to full implementation, you might consider pilot testing activities to assess their feasibility, their acceptability, and even their initial effectiveness. This pilot testing allows for fine-tuning and refinement based on real-world feedback before you scale up. Now, throughout program implementation, of course, you want to be continuously monitoring the activities to engage their effectiveness and impact. You want to collect quantitative and qualitative data to assess outcomes, gather participant feedback, identify areas for improvement, and then use the evidence generated through the monitoring and evaluation to inform your program improvement. You want to be open to adjusting your activities based on emerging evidence and insights you've gathered through your own program's life cycle. So I hope that this kind of gives you a good overview of where you're coming from, how BSCA is really integrated with this. And I know we've got some questions as well. So I think we can kind of move towards that portion of our program.
Great. Thank you so much, Julie, for that great presentation. So to start off our questions, our first one is, where would we go to find evidence-based practice options that would align to the purpose and intent of this grant program?
So interestingly enough, one of the things that we have provided to you is a handout that actually talks about some of these links and resources that you will then be able to utilize. So you want to take a look at one that's 21st century handouts, okay? So I think, can everybody still see this?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Sometimes when I put it ahead, I don't always see it. You'll see that we actually provided you a variety of additional resources specifically aimed at this question, right? There's mentoring resources. There's things on the 21st century specifically. There's addressing learning loss. There's a variety of education resources about what works clearinghouse, supporting social and emotional behavior, learning environments. There's lots of them that kind of give you these different guides, because that is a common question that people ask, because otherwise it can be very overwhelming.
Great. Thank you, Julie. And again, as a reminder to participants, please feel free to continue using the Q&A function to insert your questions, and we will get to them in this webinar. All right, our second question here is, are there certain types of needs assessments that you recommend we use? And are longitudinal studies that show needs over time preferred?
So these are really good questions. So one, I would tell you that if you are applying for the 21st century program for the first time, one of the best things you can do is, obviously you're starting with all your school data and in that partnership and relationship, but you really need to provide surveys. You need to design surveys to ask students questions, to ask parents questions. You need to, and if you don't have access to that, you need to work in partnership with the schools to do that. We use lots of Google surveys, frankly. They don't have to be very tailored to the, like, I don't need people's names, right? But we've done it in situations where the survey has said, just tell us what school your kid goes to, or if there's multiple schools, they can choose multiple schools. And that gives us an opportunity to kind of tailor, well, my middle schooler has these kind of challenges, my elementary student has these kind of things. And then if I'm like a community-based organization, I can then kind of see, oh, well, I'm clustering around this school had a lot of these similar things. And I can have this dialogue with my school district to say, okay, these are the kind of needs we're seeing. Now, sometimes those needs assessments have to go through the schools. Sometimes you're able to do them because you already have a pool of families and students that you're already serving that you can ask these questions to. So I think that's one component. Occasionally people will ask me, how old can the needs assessments be? Which I think some of what you're moving to with the longitudinal studies. Because I would tell you, it's really imperative that your needs assessments have been done post-pandemic. I occasionally have people who say, well, we did one in 2019. And I was like, guys, these days, it's respectfully not going to be relevant. Your SEA will, and your reviewers aren't going to consider it relevant, even if you're like, but we have the same problems. Okay. So you really want to take, I would say, if it's 2024 now, what are you taking a look at the last year or two? And again, I'm an advocate of doing fresh ones. So I might, as if I'm someone who already has a 21st century, or I already have an after school or out of school program, and I already have something that I'm doing within my own program that has shown how those needs have changed. Oh, well, needs used to be this prior to COVID, and then COVID happened, and now needs are this. That data is like gold if you can get it. But a lot of organizations don't necessarily have that longitudinal data. But if you have it, yes, it would be considered some of the highest quality needs assessment data.
Great, thank you, Julie.
Yeah.
Please continue to send your questions. We have another question here. Is there an anticipated release date for RFPs? And I can take this one.
Sure.
Really encourage applicants to go ahead, go to the Green Lights Grants Initiative website and insert go to contact us and insert your email, and we will be providing notifications as information becomes available. Alternatively, I will leave our email address within the Q&A as well, and you can feel free to email us directly as well, and we will make sure that you are on our listserv for notifications.
And if I can add one more thing, because we're talking to a nationwide audience, these states do provide these at different times, right? So I have organizations that I work with that they offer their application is due in December. I have another one who always has an application due in May. So each state is really designing their release dates based upon kind of the time it takes for them to review these on the back end and get them awarded in a timely fashion.
Great, thank you, Julie. All right. Just another question here is, for those prospective applicants, we really appreciate you putting it into the context of all, at the federal level, but also drilling down on common elements of state applications. Could you just kind of, provide a summary of anticipated data needs that, just anyone can kind of start collecting prior to their individual state applications going up?
Yeah, absolutely. So I always take a look, if I have a particular school, I start with what is my attendance rate in that school? What I work with the schools, or I might be able to take a look at it off the state's website for a particular school or school district. I take a look at what their achievement rates are for not just the school, but also those subcategories, right? Whether these are low income students, right? They're on free and reduced lunch, or are they do they have a disability, or are they English language learners? And I start taking a look at what are their challenges and start really thinking about, like, who am I likely to be serving in a low income school? Who is going to be most likely to use these services, and how can we meet their needs academically So I start taking a look at those academic pieces. As we talked about with the integration with BSCA, there's so much of a focus on engagement and attendance. So you absolutely need to be taking a look at the attendance data for the particular school or region that you're taking a look at. After that, because of this additional layer of safe and inclusive environments, we really take a hard look at the issues of the climate surveys and whether students feel like they belong. So often, if students are having challenges during the school day, there's a question of whether that after school or out of school program can be their lifeline, a way for them to be able to feel like they belong in something that they feel passionate about, or maybe that's a place where somebody really cares about them. And again, you get into this issue of mentoring and some of those types of things. So I always like to take a look at the climate surveys. I've also seen some programs add things like social workers to their programs, or some other kind of community mental health partnership, maybe with a community mental health center, to take a look at what kinds of challenges are students experiencing with their own mental health or behavioral health challenges, because they may be just simply looking for a place where they can thrive. So those are kind of the starters that I take a look at. And then I always want to know, what are parents looking for? Because parents will drive whether students are in attendance at the elementary level. With the BSCA money, you're looking at more middle school and high school. So I want to make sure that my program is something that kids actually want to go to. What hook do I have? What do they care about when I'm taking a look at that needs? What are students really looking for, but they don't have, that could actually entice them into the program? And I feel like those are kind of my starter mixes when I'm taking a look at my needs data to start out with.
Great, and I think this might be our last question. We have someone who is called in from a phone. Edith,
Okay.
I'm going to unmute you shortly. So Edith, if you could ask your question. May not be there anymore. But certainly if there are any other questions that maybe you were not able to ask today, we encourage you to just go ahead and email us, or the email, Julie's email that is currently on the screen, and we'll certainly get back to you.
Wonderful. Well, I just want to say, on behalf of the Green Lights Grant Initiative, thank you all so much for joining this webinar. We're so lucky every time we have Julie talk to us. She is just wonderful and an expert in this area. I know there were a couple questions that Tori addressed about when specific RFPs became available per state. The Green Lights Grant Initiative is working to ensure that we get accurate and timely information out there every time a state level 21st century grant comes available. So we send that on a state by state basis. We also do encourage you to look at your state's Department of Education, as they have wonderful resources on this as to when these grants might become available. I want to highlight for everyone our next webinar, which is also on Department of Education grants, on March 19th. And this will cover a few grants, but specifically the school-based mental health services grant and the mental health services professional grant. Both of these grants are now recently made available with deadlines in the coming months. So also expect an email from the Green Lights Grant Initiative on these available grants through Department of Education. So we're very happy that this webinar is coming up in 2 weeks, as it will be very timely. And we really hope you bring your questions, and we hope that our grant experts can be helpful to you. So with that, we'll give you back some time in your day. We know you're all super busy, and we really appreciate you taking the time. As Julie and Tori mentioned, we will be sharing sharing the recording, the slides, and the additional pamphlet that Julie put together with you as soon as possible. We expect this to be ready by tomorrow, mid-morning, just as we get everything uploaded onto the webpage. So thank you very much and have a great rest of your day.